Now, what you heard right now is Indian Finance Minister. She was announcing the budget of 2000 this year. Now, we're going to be cutting across to our correspondent, Siddhant Sibal. He's joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much, Siddhant, for joining us. Now that we just heard she's concluded her speech, now, what are the major things that you picked up from this speech?
Well, the first reaction to the announcements made by the Indian Finance Minister is the clear focus remains on creation of jobs. We saw the schemes being announced by the Indian Finance Minister in terms of creation of job and also the youth getting more employability with the skill announcements as well. So that remains the key focus. Of course, the coalition politics can be clearly seen with the announcements being made for the state of Bihar and Andhra Pradesh. We know that the Indian Finance Minister announced support to both the states in terms of not only projects but also support from international multilateral organizations. Remember that leaders from both Bihar and Andhra Pradesh are key coalition component of the current government, the third term of the Modi government, but nonetheless a coalition government. Of course, something that was closely awaited was the tax announcements. We know that tax announcements and the new tax slab has been announced. There has been abolishment of the angel tax as well. That's a big boost up for the startups as well. We're waiting for the markets, how they react on the development. We are also waiting for the reactions coming from the various business chambers as well. But nonetheless, this was a budget that was clearly oriented towards job creation, but also in terms of the agriculture sector. One of the key announcements that has been made for the agriculture sector is introduction of new varieties which are resistant to climate change, also creation of vegetable production hubs near major city centers. That is part of the agriculture reform policies that have been announced in this year's budget. But all in all, it's a budget that focuses on people, the masses, the middle class, and of course the lower middle class and the poor class as well. But all in all, we are waiting for the budget document to be now being placed. The documents which will have more nitty-gritties as to the announcements on the schemes and also the announcements for the countries in the region. That, of course, never comes in the statement of the Indian Finance Minister, but the details are given in the budget document. What will be the announcement for countries like Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Seychelles, Mauritius, Sri Lanka, Maldives, and Afghanistan, and other parts of the world as well, India's global infrastructure projects. But there will be, of course, a presser as well as the day begins, because the announcement has been made, but do not forget that it's a pretty long day with reactions coming in and a press conference by the Indian Finance Minister where she will give the details of the budget announcements.
Right,
there will be, of course, the Prime Minister's reaction as well.
Right, Siddhant, of course, we'll be getting more updates. I'll just stop you there and we'll go to Jayant Krishna. He's also a senior fellow for Center for Strategic and International Studies. He's joining us live from Delhi. Welcome to the broadcaster. Now,
Hi.
I would rather want you to start with your first reactions to the budget.
I think, the primary focus to me appears to be on skills, education and employment. That's very clear. And the total, outlay of 1.48 lakh crores for education, skills and jobs, that they have set aside. It appears to be, quite encouraging. The final details are yet to come. But, if you look at the last elections, where BJP failed to get a majority of its own, it had to rely on the other BJP NDA partners. I think the one major reason was the rural distress and the joblessness or, lack of adequate incremental jobs. So I think that's very encouraging. I see some of the EPFO contribution, for additional employment getting created, being funded by the government for a limited time period. The first timers and others, they have differentiated jobs in manufacturing. They have talked about, up to about 30 lakh youths to get benefited and EPFO contribution from first to fourth year coming from the government, which is very encouraging. And to my mind, the most important thing is, even in the economic survey that was tabled in the parliament yesterday by the finance minister, it came out very clearly that only 50% of our youth are employable. I mean, the actual data is even lower, but the government did accept the 50% of them are unemployable. So I think for them and for others, I think internship has been introduced. Otherwise, internship used to be there in private space, depending upon the contacts of our parents. Children used to get in, and youth used to get apprenticeship, internship opportunities, but very few. So this time they have set aside, a lot of money, and they're talking about 1 crore youths to be benefited in the next 5 years' time during internship with industry, while industry will have to bear the cost of training. But, the government will pay a stipend of 5,000 rupees to these interns every month, and they're talking about longer internships of 1 year. So that's good. Education sector loans, they have talked about up to rupees 10 lakh, especially for higher education at a very, very subsidized rate of interest of 3%. So I think, primarily, if you really ask me what is the top of the line finding that I have so far, having just heard the budget speech, it is about jobs, skills, and employment and education. That's the primary highlight of the budget.
Right. You talked about the earlier term. Do you think that the budget indicates a policy continuity from the previous India governments, from his last term?
I would presume so. If you look at FDI coming into India, if you look at overseas investors, and not only overseas, even domestic investors, especially in manufacturing and service sector investments, they expect some kind of a regulatory certainty and a policy continuity. So I don't see those major, policy plans or posturing of the government having changed in this. So which is very encouraging. And, a lot of sectors, infrastructure, they have maintained, 3.4% of the GDP they're going to spend on infrastructure. And they're talking about a matching amount coming from state governments. That's what they will be in discussion with. So these are all very encouraging. And despite, a lot of allocations to newer sectors and so on and so forth, and the 9 priority areas that the FM talked about, I think they have promised that the deficit would be contained to 4.9%, which is pretty encouraging, because, otherwise, if the fiscal prudence is not established, then it's not a good signal for the economy at all. So I think these things, to my mind, are very, very important. And, as I said, the budget speech has just ended 5 minutes ago. So a lot needs to be read in fine print, because speech is only, the tips of the iceberg of the entire budget document. And once we go through it, we'll have a better idea. But I think direction-wise, it is good. And one more thing I would like to talk about from a policy continuity you talked about. But a lot of investments today ask for, typically, if you study the history of Indian finance ministers, the first 2 years of a new government are those where maximum number of reforms happen. So while she did not spell out details of that, but she definitely talked about some of the reforms in the labor law side, as well as the land acquisition side. One remains to see that, how deep are those reforms or not. And MSME sector also, a lot of credit guarantee schemes and those things have been extended. And MSMEs do employ almost, 11 to 12 crore people in the country. So I think those look positive so far. On the salaried class employees, standard deduction has been increased from 50,000 to 75,000. Some other benefits have been given, and she's talking about a total saving of almost 17,500 rupees per salaried employee per year. There, I feel little more could have been done, but perhaps the government didn't have that kind of elbow space to give a deeper. And foreign companies, the overseas companies always used to crib that we pay a higher corporate income tax. I think that has been brought down from 40% to 30%.